Hello, I'm Brigantia, Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Wednesday, and welcome back to Divination Demonstration. This week's spread is called Darkest Night, and if you would like to see what that looks like, please come visit us on our Discord server, Blackbird's Brew. There is a link to join in the description box below, and you will go to the Magical Tidbits channel, and it will be there for you. So, first card is about asking. What does the querent desire but doesn't let themselves have? Or is afraid to have, or is afraid that they will never have. For our querent, they pulled the Six of Swords, representing safety, peace, and moving on. This is a very fundamental and primal sense of insecurity. If you desire that sense of safety, desire that sense of, okay, I'm all right in my space, I'm all right in my relationships, I'm all right with myself, and that you don't either let yourself that have, or you're afraid you can't have it and will never have it, that is extremely disruptive to life. This could manifest in someone's behavior as they find themselves flitting from place to place, from relationship to relationship, from projects and professions and hobbies, just never really settling on anything. And all of that can be the result of a very deep-rooted fear that even if they tried to make themselves belong somewhere, that they never really will, and that it would just be a matter of time before it collapsed in on them. So this is a very, very unsettling beginning, and it goes to a need to do some pretty intensive shadow work. Now the second card has to do with gifting. What would happen if the querent allowed themselves to receive the gift that they desire? They pulled the Eight of Swords, which is about overthinking, restriction, incapacity. I think this is a manifestation of what they fear would happen, that even if they did somehow finagle to, this is my spot, this is where I'm at, this is where I'm going to be, that they would be prone to overanalyzing the situation, trying to find fault where really there is none, having an exaggerated sense of restriction, or that it would, incapacitate them in some way. If someone's become accustomed to wandering and traveling and floating wherever the wind takes them, settling in one place might have that kind of detrimental effect, at least at first. So I do think that this more so represents their fears than what would actually happen. Now, third card is about releasing. What needs to be released in order for the querent to make space in their lives for their desire? We have the Nine of Cups, wishes, rewards, happiness, and sharing. I think this is the dream of the open road and being everywhere and nowhere and flitting around, and that building up in someone's mind is their idea of the ideal life, and that would be something that would enable them to have the most experiences possible. And maybe not. Perhaps this is just wishful thinking. Perhaps this kind of untethered lifestyle is not giving them the satisfaction and the happiness that they imagine that it does. So, again, I think there's a lot of indications just in these first few cards about the need for shadow work and some self-examination. Now, the fourth card is about accepting. What lessons has the querent learned in the past year that has strengthened their desire? Because even though they've worked themselves into believing that it's not actually going to be good for them, they still have this innate desire to have, to belong, to be somewhere. So our querent pulled the Seven of Spears, which is about challenges, negotiation, advocacy, and anticipation. I would imagine this has mostly to do with challenges that our querents endured in the past year, dealing with a lot of things that perhaps made a more settled life or a more settled relationship, or just something in their life needing a firmer, more solid foundation, a lot more appealing. Perhaps, flitting around from hither to thither in whatever form that's manifesting in, perhaps that has caused some difficulties that they didn't in years past. Perhaps that is what has awakened them to the desire to think that perhaps life could be different if they allowed it to be. So the fifth card represents dissonance. What is something that is dissonant in the querent's life and causing disharmony? And we have the Three of Swords. Pain, suffering, sorrow, and betrayal. So this strengthens my intuition that they did have a profound disappointment, something that made them think that perhaps their status quo wasn't all that it was cracked up to be, or maybe it just doesn't suit them. We do change as we get older. Our desires change. And perhaps, I can't help but think that perhaps a relationship went really wrong. Usually the Three of Swords doesn't come up as often if it's a business or a career concern, or you had a hobby that somehow went awry. That's usually doesn't evoke this kind of emotion, but failed relationships certainly will. Then we have the sixth card, resonance. What is something that is resonant in the querent's life and causes harmony? And they pulled the Page of Swords, which is about news, contracts, and vigilance. I would imagine the sense of vigilance, of staying on your toes and maintaining awareness of what's going on around you, is something that has given the querent some sense of harmony in their life, or at least some benefits to it. This doesn't feel like the strongest influence in this particular spread, though, at least not for this querent. So let's move on to the seventh card, which is about a guiding star. This is about a message of clarity to guide the querent on the path of their desire. They have the World, which is about completion, success, reward, integration, and expansion. So something needs to be integrated. Perhaps you need to be integrated into a community. Perhaps you've been moving around so often that now you need to actually put down some roots and belong somewhere. This could possibly mean that perhaps that person who you've been dating for 15 years, perhaps they would like to actually get married, and perhaps they're not unreasonable for thinking that things ought to have progressed in that direction after all that time. Maybe it's time for a new chapter. Maybe you're on the verge of having children. Maybe you are about to have a change of profession. Maybe there is just something that is giving you a sense of where you belong and that you need to be reintegrated into it. Not as likely, at least in this scenario. I'm not really picking up on that, but it is still a possibility, so I'll bring it up. This integration could refer to something more internal, emotional, mental, spiritual integration. Perhaps there are things in your past that you are needing to address and face dead in the eye, and that goes back to the idea of shadow work. Maybe it is time to just deal with some things and put them in their proper place and be able to move forward in a more cohesive fashion because you're more complete and integrated within yourself. So that is another thing that this could be representing. So, eighth and final card, the seeding star, something that should be planted, that shall seed the desire of the querent. The seed might be a practice, a move, a business change, or something else that helps the querent grow into their desire in the coming months. I like that expression, grow into it, because it does seem that what the querent wants is something that they are somewhat uncomfortable with, and that tells me that it is a huge change from their current status quo. So, what should be planted? We have, interestingly, the Hermit, representing solitude, spirituality, truth, reflection, wisdom, self-healing, and journeys. Perhaps the journey is that journey back home. The wisdom is the wisdom of taking the lessons that you've learned and seeing what it means and how to apply it. Self-healing. I do see a lot of cards that can indicate a need for self-healing of some kind. And spirituality, I think especially, we've been through a lot in the past couple of years with everything that's been going on in the world scene. And when things are difficult and we find ourselves seeing that there's just not a whole lot to rely upon, I think that does tend to awaken a heightened need for spirituality and spiritual awareness within a lot of people. So it could very well be that our querent is needing to explore that as well. So lots going on. If you do decide to try out the spread, please let me know how it went for you. If you would like to discuss it or at least see what it looks like, again, you're very welcome to join us at Blackbird's Brew. There is a link in the description box for you to join. But in the meantime, as always, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next one.